Welcome to this week's edition of the Lithium Stock News Weekly Wrap. We've got a lot of lithium stock news to cover today. From resource upgrades to potential partnerships, earnings season has just finished, so of course there's going to be some insights around numbers. And one company in particular, which we'll cover later on in this video, has seen its share price rise by over 100% just this past month alone. Before we get into the news, yes, for those with a keen eye, we're back in front of the original set. We've been traveling Europe over the past few weeks and we'll be heading back. But for the next couple of weeks, we've got a project to complete back at home, actually. So for those who have missed it, we're back in front of the set. If you're new here and you haven't yet, make sure you've subscribed. Turn your bell notifications on as well. You won't miss any of our market updates, and we cover plenty in the lithium and EV battery materials space as well. Let's get into it. Pilbara Minerals, ASX PLS. We know it's a bellwether for the broader lithium space. It's one of the largest lithium producers. Obviously, it's in production here and now, which is important with the elevated lithium prices. But for a number of reasons, they give insights into the trajectory and trend of the lithium price as well. One of these is their innovative battery materials exchange auction that they've pioneered. It gives us an idea about trajectory. And obviously the first one was in July 2021. So we've got over a year's worth of data now, and we can see how rapidly the price uplift has gone. We got some really good numbers and graphs out of Pilbara Minerals' annual report, which is what we're looking at here. And it just gives an idea about how things are tracking in the lithium space. As we know, as Pilbara really ramps up their production and they get more and more latent production that they're able to sell into the spot market, we'll get more insights surrounding the BMX. But you can see here, into August 2022, elevated lithium prices. Obviously, the white is the spot price, and the green is what they sold at the battery materials exchange auction. Who would have thought we'd see $7,000 for spod? But hey, this is where we are. We're in the here and now, and demand for electric vehicles looks like it's going to continue to grow. Then we also get an insight into Pilbara Minerals' focus on expansion. Obviously, they're moving towards 1 million tonnes per annum. This is just for spot alone. We know they're looking into midstream as well with their venture with Calix, as well as downstream as well with their JV. But what this really tells us is, for a current producer who's obviously having all of the discussions with external stakeholders, OEMs, companies who want to get their hands onto lithium, there is evidently demand and a significant demand runway ahead that they're so willing to invest and invest rapidly to scale up. And this speaks not only to Pilbara, not only to other producers like your Allchems as well, but also to aspirant producers that are looking to come online and continue to their development, as well as early stage explorers that might be wanting to get in on the action. And then AVZ Minerals. ASX AVZ has been attracting a lot of attention over the past few months. They haven't been trading. We know they're in a voluntary suspension now, but they provided a bit of an update in terms of drilling progress at Monono, despite being still in a suspension, as a bit of a way to give an insight into things still going on behind closed doors. As you can see here, big range of drilling going on. Obviously, they've already got a huge resource at high grade now, but it gives an insight that they're continuing to drill it out and continuing to hopefully scale their resource. But really where a lot of the attention was on the voluntary suspension. It had the next milestone on the 1st of September, so investors were anxiously and eagerly awaiting to see whether they'd come out of suspension or whether it would be extended. As we can see here, the voluntary suspension was extended to the 15th of September, or if there's an earlier announcement. So that's the next milestone that ASX AVZ investors will have circled in the calendar. And then just going through to the announcement, we know that quarterly index rebalances happen for those big headline indices. The ASX 200 is always the one that attracts a lot of attention. AVZ Minerals has evidently not been trading over the past few months, and so they've fallen out of the ASX 200 index, along with a number of other companies as well, many in the tech space. But as you can see here, AVZ Minerals was one that fell out in the lithium space from the ASX 200. But obviously on the other side of the coin as well, as companies are removed, others are elevated into the benchmark ASX 200 index. And Sayona Mining was one from the lithium space that actually got the call up into the ASX 200. We know as the benchmark index, it's one that attracts a lot of attention from funds. Some funds have mandates, which mean they can only potentially buy companies either in the 200 or the 300. Obviously, a lot of eyes as investors scour the lists to see, who was elevated in? What are new companies that maybe I haven't looked at previously, but might be worth my attention? And now Sayona may be coming up on a few different people's scans, or at least appearing on some of these lists. So congratulations to the ASX SYA team there. Continuing the trend there with Sayona, their partner Piedmont Lithium has announced that they've selected Tennessee for their new lithium hydroxide project. They are anticipating that Tennessee Lithium will be the largest lithium hydroxide plant in the United States. This is obviously playing on a few different trends: the need to onshore manufacturing, the focus obviously on building out resilient supply chains within the North American region, which we're seeing here. The Inflation Reduction Act came through with a $300 billion plus climate change investment. Obviously, there's a big focus on critical minerals. Lithium's obviously one of those. And just to give you an insight into that, and obviously the downstream focus as well, rather than just extracting the minerals, they want to go downstream and continue to produce. We're seeing here 30,000 tons per annum of lithium hydroxide. That's significant scale, and the lithium concentrate, or the spod, to be sourced principally from Piedmont's international project investments. DFS for the project expected by the end of 2022. First production targeted by ASX PLL for 2025. Continuing on the theme of index inclusions and removals, we'll unpack some of the different ones that had lithium exposure or relevant to the lithium sector from the ASX 300 too. Argosy Minerals is one of the nearest term producers, looking to bring online 2,000 tons per annum of lithium carbonate equivalent very, very soon. We'll talk about that. But they were included into the ASX 300, as was Neo Metals. Neo Metals is obviously focused on the recycling space, but they've got exposure to the lithium trend or the broader electric vehicle trend via that. And Firefinch was removed. Now, obviously, Firefinch split out LLL, Leo Lithium. So now they're focused purely on the gold component with Marilla. But obviously, they had lithium exposure and I guess are very familiar with lithium investors over the past few months. But they were removed from the ASX 300 index. Continuing on the Argosy Minerals trend, as we talked about, 2,000 tonne per annum of lithium carbonate equivalent due very soon, targeted during the next month, in fact. They've got 95% of development works now complete. As you can see, looking down below, 100% design phase works, construction basically 98% complete now, and plant commissioning over halfway there. So potentially over the next month, we may have our next lithium producer, and that will be in South America, located in the Salta province in Argentina. Continuing on the theme of near-term lithium producers, I told you this would be a packed episode, didn't I? There is a lot going on in the lithium space. As we go through, drop in a comment, let us know what your highlight was as well in news in the lithium and broader electric vehicle space. But as we can see, Core and Tesla extend their offtake term sheet. Obviously, they had an initial discussion, as we can see here. This has been extended to 26th of October now for the termination date of their binding offtake term sheet. What it essentially means is they've got a bit of runway, another month and a half or so, nearly 2 months, to finalise those negotiations for definitive full-form binding offtake agreements. Obviously, Core is looking to get towards production in the not too distant future for their finished lithium project, and Tesla are hoping to be able to get some of that supply for up to 110,000 dry metric tonnes, is what the offtake term sheet defines. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that does convert over to binding over the next month or two, but now they've got that runway to just finalise that and, dot those I's and cross those T's, as they say. And then finally, Anson Resources. ASX ASN is a company that's up over 100% over the past month alone. You can see here, share price has just about gone parabolic. You might be wondering what's been happening to Anson Resources that's driven the uplift in ASX ASN. Well, they've had a couple of announcements over the past couple of weeks. First and foremost, major resource upgrade. Not the only company to provide a resource upgrade in the lithium and EV battery material space, but theirs was a significant one, over 300% on the previously reported lithium resource, 378% on the indicated resource, 248% on the previously reported bromine resource. As we can see now, 788,000 tons of lithium carbonate equivalent, nearly 800,000 tons there. And around about a third of those is in indicated, with the balance ending up in inferred there. So that's significant. They've got over 3.5 million tons of bromine as well now. And what's, I guess, most eagerly anticipated by ASN investors is the potential opportunity for further mineral resource expansion as they continue drilling campaigns as well. Along with that too, this was something that attracted a huge amount of attention and really de-risked the potential project in investors' eyes, was that Anson joins forces with global DLE leader Sunresin to develop full-scale commercial lithium plant at Paradox. So as you can see here at the bottom dot point, what's worth noting is Sunresin's DLE technology has been commercialized. They've got 4 operating projects and a further 6 either under construction or under contract. And they've got total production capacity of 70,000 plus tons per annum. So they've got a binding MOU, obviously that's a significant one, binding there, with leading global DLE technology provider Sunresin. So obviously they'll continue to work towards kind of nutting out the terms and the specifics there for the long-term strategic and commercial alliance. But Sunresin has successfully concluded 8 months of engineering design work for the Paradox Lithium project DFS, which will be released in the near future. So this attracted a lot of attention. It's worth noting, obviously, these are 2 milestone announcements, but if you've been keeping up with the lithium stock news weekly updates on this channel, we've been talking about Anson a lot recently. They've had a lot of, I guess, maybe termed by the market as minor announcements, but they've continued to de-risk the project along the way. And I guess these were the ones that really catalyzed the re-rating in terms of share price. If you've enjoyed this, make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on. Plenty of videos on this channel. Hit the like button as well. Let us know your thoughts on it all. Here's another video you can check out on the lithium sector too. Keep on watching. A big thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this one. For now, stay well and happy investing.